Hi, my name is Vivian Acquah, and I am the Certified Diversity Executive, also known as the Inclusive Workplace Wellness Advocate. And I'm the host of Let's Humanize the Workplace, where we are having different conversations with different people about things that are valuable for humanizing the workplace. Since tomorrow is all about International Women's Day, or let's say the whole month March is International Women's Day, but I would rather have companies, organizations um, pay attention to initiatives that advance women. Right, every month, every day, every week, every quarter, you choose whatever cycle you want to activate, as long as you don't only use this month just for the DEI washing, because I do want to prevent that from happening. But since it is International Women's Month Day tomorrow as well, I just want to highlight a positive future, because the EBA, and that is the European Banking Authority, just released a report about gender diversity among the European banks in among the banking in Europe, right? And one of the positive things that I do want to highlight is the banks that have a better gender balance are getting a return on equity. So for the leaders, for the decision makers, for those who want, the um, that whole business case, Google it, go to the European Banking Authority, and here is one of the reasons why diversity wins when you pay more attention to gender balance. I would say also pay more attention to the intersectionality as well, because there's so much more valuable customers to win, valuable stakeholders to win when you pay attention to that. But then on the other hand, I also have to get real about the things that are happening, right? Because when you look at this chart, you notice that only 18% of all European banks are being led by a woman. And I'm not saying that it should be all women or it should be all men. I'm looking for a balance. I'm looking for making space for more women to lead companies. So whilst organizations are saying, yes, we value diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is one of the reasons why it is important to have the data, preferably the data that, dives deeper, right? Because now that you know that I'm a woman, or help you, help you understand, yes, I'm a woman, but I'm not only a woman, I'm a Black woman, right? And that aspect is missing in a lot of European countries as well, because we don't know what kind of women are leading these companies. My assumption, though, is that the people that are leading these companies are predominantly from have a Caucasian background. Again, I'm not saying that this wrong, but I do want to put a question in your mind. Are you representing all people? Are you a reflection from the representation in your country, in the customers that you are serving, right? Because that is of value when you want to amplify diversity, equity, and inclusion. And another thing, yes, I do have to highlight this. We need more salary transparency, pay transparency, because when companies want to do better, why not start with the pay? Why not open it up and say, we need to amplify their salaries, right? Because now about women are earning almost 9.5% less than their male counterparts. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. But before I dig deeper, I will be having this conversation on the 17th of March, so next week, Friday, to dig more into this topic and why we need to amplify today. But today is all about standing out in the crowd and celebrating what makes you different. So I'm gonna introduce my guest speakers. Let me find their bio as well. So David Wen is a L&D professional who is a strengths and EQ coach, and is a part-time YouTuber with a mission to help people develop and grow their unique talents. And then we have Nicoletta Anton, who is a marketing strategist X, Coach X, uni lecturer, and Nicoletta helps people to have the career that they want using all three. And today is about, celebrating what makes you different. So let's start with the first question, Nicoletta. Um, why is it important to humanize the workplace?
Well, first of all, Vivian, thanks for having me. Hi, hi to
Hello.
everybody.
Thanks for
When to
being
take
here.
the moment. Yeah, with the question, why do we need to humanize the workplace?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it is because at the end of the day, regardless of the profits, it's people who make a company. It's people who create those profits. And the more we invest in people and the more they feel at home, they feel seen, they feel they can contribute and actually contribute to the extent of their potential, then the better we all do. We hire people, we promote people. It really starts and ends with people. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why the more focus we put on making sure that they feel comfortable where they're working, that they feel that they can contribute, that they have a certain degree of autonomy, that they see the value and meaning in what they do, the better off we all
Yeah.
are. I also think that hiding part of you is really mentally taxing.
Yeah.
It's taxing also on your time, on your energy, and the more we're able to show up as ourselves, whatever that looks like for each of you, um, the easier it is to breathe and to work
Mm-hmm.
and to live. And to me, at least, it's part of what humanizing means, that we feel comfortable, at least to a certain extent, or at least a little bit more every day, to bring more of ourselves to work rather than just that professional face we put on.
Yes, I love it. And also I love it that you brought up it's the people that make the organization, right? Sometimes I read articles and read studies and I'm just like, without the people, these companies are nothing, right? But yet people are being treated like numbers. They are being dismissed. There's this whole layoff example that are I'm not gonna name the companies, but there are some bad examples out there where people are being dismissed like they are nothing, not knowing that there is a whole village behind them. And the way, like Maya Angelou says, right, the way you treat people, that will always be remembered no matter where you go, no matter where you are. And now we live in an age where Google knows a lot, right? Google knows everything. So the way you treat people will forever be recognized on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on other platforms, and we need to do better. So thank you for highlighting the essence of people and organizations, not to forget the people. David, how about you?
Well, Vivian and Nicoletta, I just want to highlight what you both just said about the importance of being ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace. And so I work professionally in HR.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do a lot of is I talk to a lot of people in one on one sessions, and I'm a strengths coach, a Gallup strengths coach. And so in the past few years, I've talked to over 100 people about their strengths, what makes them different. And a very common response I initially get is, oh, I wish I was more influential. I wish I
Mm-hmm.
was more analytical. Oh, I wish I didn't think as much. And I get it too, because I myself, I come from a finance background. And I remember asking my manager at that time when I was working in finance, what's my biggest strength? And he told me, your biggest strength is your ability to listen. And I just remember being so disappointed because in finance, I thought we should be analytical, strategic, but he told me you're a great listener. And I was like, oh, what can I do with listening? But now I know, especially from research Gallup has done, is that when people are aware of what their strengths are, what makes them different, and they consciously use them in the workplace, that's when everything goes up, from
Mm-hmm.
productivity to engagement to happiness.
Yeah.
And so, but yet many of us, especially perhaps social conditioning, we try to be someone that we're not.
Yeah.
But it's so important for us to understand who we are and to own it as well. Um, so yeah, we're all very different, but it's really about how do we understand who we are and to own it as well.
I love
Yeah.
what you said because it made me think of it's a bad example, but the actor from the Titanic, he was in a big movie where he played, I think he played the wolf or Wolf on Wall Street, right? I'm forgetting
Leo. Yeah,
Leonardo
Leo.
DiCaprio, where he mentioned something, if I can do it, you can do it, right? And I sleep is overrated. I can work hard and I can do this. And whilst you're saying that people are depriving themselves over their happiness, if you want to copy paste somebody else's behavior, then that means that you don't have the time to explore who you are, what are your superpowers and how you can amplify your superpowers in the workplace. And it's a waste because people should be hired for their unique skills, their unique talents, and every superpower that they have. But yet sometimes they copy themselves, or they are unique, and then when they enter the company, they copy other people's behavior, which is a shame, which is definitely a shame. So thank you for sharing that. And coming back on today's topic, right, David? Celebrating what makes you different, because when you look at yourself, you just mentioned you have a financial background, myself as well, so there's something happening in finance stream where people are not following that path, but that's a whole different topic. um what are you doing to stand out of from the crowd?
Yeah. What am I doing to stand out from the crowd? So I've had a lot of gaps in my resume, also a lot of different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that came out of a need for me to, well, figure out what I really wanted to do in my life. So I
Mm-hmm.
experimented a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I went from finance to I thought I wanted to become a photographer. Then I thought I wanted to do marketing. So I did a digital marketing boot camp. And then I stumbled upon something called UX, user experience,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually found my way to the Netherlands, where I am currently doing learning and development. Um, but I found that a lot of that confusion of experimenting with this and this actually gives me an advantage because I, especially now working in HR, can understand and empathize with many different parts of the business,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's finance or working with product engineering or working with marketing. I have this lens where I can actually understand where they're coming from, and that actually helps me do my job. I can understand the business as well and connect business and HR. So I do think what was once this big question mark, like, oh, what do I want to do in my life, actually is helping me tremendously in the workplace now. Um, so that's one thing, but there's so many other things, but I will highlight that.
You just hit a nail on so many things. I have so many questions, but I wanna address something because, like you, many other talented people have gaps, or sometimes they have bigger breaks, or they take a parent break, right? And the way that LinkedIn approaches that, LinkedIn has a very smart tool where you can redefine your gaps. And the way that David rebranded himself, listen back, please listen back, because the way that David rebranded himself, like, I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that, but I'm using all of what I've learned from the past, using it now to set myself stand out from the crowd. Better yet, he used a word that I love, empathize with somebody else. But you know what it's like for financial people, like end of the month, don't call me, don't bother me, especially beginning of the month, don't call me, don't bother me, because I'm doing my numbers. And then again, also so many other things, right? So I would say see your gap as an adventure, as something that is valuable, because yes, you took the time to learn and upskill, and that means also that you have a way to adapt. That's how I would see it, right? So don't see your gap as a disadvantage, see it as an advantage. That's how I would say. Yeah, thank
Hmm,
you.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Nicoletta, what makes you
Yeah.
stand out of the from the crowd?
Oh, to answer that question, I first want to really relate to what David said, because
Mm-hmm.
David, I could see myself so much in what you said as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I had moments in my life where I thought I really want to change the direction of my career, but I felt completely stuck. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know how I could make such a jump. And what I can now see that I didn't see back then is that every single job that I did, regardless of the field or what it focused on, added to what I now know and what
Yeah.
I can do. So my message to all of you who feel maybe I want to try something else, I don't know where I'm going to end up, I don't even know what I want, or I know what I want, but I have no idea how I can get there. You find out as you go. Like
Yeah.
nothing is lost from what you do. Everything is an experience that adds. It adds a certain skill set. It maybe help you relate better to different roles that you're going to interact with in a future job. You never know. So just keep going and don't lose hope. That's a big one. I wish someone would have told me that at some point, maybe like 10 years ago. And I can give maybe a practical example. Like
Yeah.
one of the first jobs that I had was as a management assistant, which I have so much respect for that role and what people in this role are able to do every single day. Um, it wasn't a role I necessarily saw myself in for the entire duration of my career, but now looking back, I learned so much from that role that I applied every single day as a marketer, as a manager, as anything, as a teacher. Um, every single role, every single job you do comes with some skills and knowledge. So I completely agree. That also helps me, I guess, stand out from everybody else because my path is unique, just
Mm-hmm.
as yours are. And every single experience adds up into a mix that is uniquely mine. And what I can say to that as well is I used to, I think maybe all of us to a certain degree have this fear, this need to fit in, to, there's a we paint a picture of what success looks like and that's what we want to get, but then we don't stop and think that maybe we want it to look a little bit different,
Yeah.
or the things that we consider flaws because they're not the ideal as it's portrayed by someone else or society or someone else we admire, maybe those are the things that are actually our strengths and that will help us be happy with what we do and who we are. And this is what I think, like when I first realized that and acknowledged it and accepted it, and what makes me me might actually be my strength rather than a disadvantage.
True.
And we all have that. Those things that, oh, nobody can know about this. It makes
You
me,
know that whole TikTok song about they're gonna know, nobody knows. They're gonna know. And
yeah,
they'll definitely know when you embrace that thought the whole time in your mind, right? Yeah.
yeah. Like that
Yeah.
thing that makes you
Yeah.
cringe about
Yeah.
yourself and you think it's a huge flaw that you need to hide. Look at it a little bit, sit with it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an advantage,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that for myself. And I use what I used to consider flaws as strong points. I find a way to use them. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is really, for each of us, it will be different, but we all have it and we might as well use it.
Definitely. And also while you were talking about all these different skills and everything that you did to upskill yourself, either to skill yourself vertically or horizontally, um I'm not going to tell my age, and maybe you know, but I'm not going to disclose it anyway, but 20 years ago, the way that, information came to me, the internet was it was working, but it wasn't as fast as it is right now. So having that information, also where Google was at, 20 years ago, was at a different stage. So the way that I upskilled myself is go to the library, read books, read news articles, right, and consume things in a much slower pace. Now you have YouTube, you have Coursera, you have LinkedIn Learning, you have so many other platforms that offer free courses. Sometimes they offer a lower pricing for certification, and also other platforms like YouTube where you can learn for free and do something else, right? Take advantage of that, because there are different ways for you to stand out of the crowd. Either you train that muscle that you are specialized in, or you learn something new and let that be your specialization as well. So Nicoletta, You come from you no, I need to ask this question in a different way. So I know this of you that a few years ago you were living somewhere else, or I think 10 years ago you were living something else, and you came to the Netherlands for a reason. I remember studying, right? For
Yeah,
study,
I
yeah.
came to study. Yeah,
And but eventually you stayed in the Netherlands. So this question is for you. What was it for you to transition to the Netherlands?
right. Uh, I loved it. It was a dream come true.
Mhm. Mhm.
I came at a moment in my life, early 20s, to study, right?
Yeah.
So that opened up a whole new world for me, where I got to discover the beautiful city of Amsterdam. And also, what I remember distinctly from it is that I didn't feel like I went to a foreign land, but
Mhm.
I landed in a place where I could meet people from so many cultures, and I
Yeah.
could discover so much richness in the people that I met. Also at university, there were a lot of internationals, so it was really easy to find that and make connections. And we were all in the same stage of life, so we really, yeah, I have really good friends from that time. But it gave me an opportunity to also find out who I am or who I want to be outside
Mhm.
the confines of a certain culture. You know, when you grow up in your culture and then you continue to live there, and to work there, there's certain norms, rules, spoken, unspoken, that you kind of have to adhere to. You know,
Yeah.
what's polite, what's not, all of that. And then when you interact with people from many different cultures, you have to negotiate this. You have to discover, how do I actually want to be? How
Mhm.
do I actually want to work? We make those rules together, and I found that fascinating and liberating. It enabled me to figure out what I actually want and who I want to be and how I want to show up in my life, but also at work. And I think it's one of the greatest gifts of this world, that allows us to travel and to
Yeah.
live in different countries and to work with people from across the globe, because then we discover who we are. I think we work better. I think we can empathize. We can relate to other people better. We tap into the thoughts and richness of many different perspectives, which I think can help us come up with better solutions, or
Mhm.
solutions
True.
that cater to a larger group of people. So I only have good things to say about it, really. And I think it
Yeah, and
also helped. Yeah.
also to tap in. I know the three of us, we are all coaches, right? And I'm not I don't want to take away the adventure of traveling or living abroad, but there are also other ways to explore or to
Yeah.
go on an exploration in who you are and what your qualities are, right? And that's where do want to emphasize that we are all three coaches. So if you have the means, and if you don't, if you have the means, invest in a coach, no matter what kind of coach you're looking for, whether it's a career coach, whether it's your branding, or whether it's your strength coach. Find a coach that will support you, but also can help you navigate during your career or personal situation. And on the other hand, something else that you touched upon is um, a valuable thing when it comes to diversity is getting to know other people, be open for them, right? This part in is sometimes is missing in the workplace, that we are not curious enough about other people, and then we make assumptions about other people. So thank you for highlighting that, Nicoletta. And David,
Yeah.
how is it for you transitioning to the Netherlands?
Well, yeah, I could just repeat what Nicoletta said because I
Mhm.
can relate to, well, one, the power of travel, of being
Mhm.
abroad to really discover who we are, to empathize. And for myself, I've always seen travel and living abroad as probably the most powerful form of education for myself.
Mhm. Sure.
And for myself, coming to the Netherlands was an extension of that philosophy.
Mhm.
I never expected to come to the Netherlands, but by chance of, well, trying to figure out my life and what I wanted to do, I landed and I did a master's program in Maastricht. And that was a very diverse program with people from around the world. And it was also a cultural exchange. And I remember there was this one moment. There were two Dutch girls who invited me and this my Chinese classmate over for dinner, and it was a cultural exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one girl, and the sweetest girl, but she comes from a very small town, and she asked, well, a question about Chinese culture. Is it true that people still eat dogs? It was a very honest, but it
Mm-hmm.
comes from the most polite place.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very educational moment because we were able to let her know in the most friendly way. And that also broke down a lot of biases and
Yeah.
stereotypes.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many examples that I've had, whether traveling or being here, where through this cultural exchange, we were able to learn something about someone else. And
Yeah.
when we talk about humanizing the workplace or society, it's through these exchanges that we can truly understand and empathize with someone else that can really break down biases and stereotypes. So for
Sure.
me, it's been extremely transformative.
Sure. And it makes me curious though. I'm gonna ask something challenging. So what is a bias that you unconscious bias that you had about the Netherlands that wasn't true?
Unconscious bias.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I can start unless you have one, Nicoletta.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm trying to think from when I first
Mhm.
came what some shocks were. I have a culture shock. I'm not sure if it's like a
Yeah, that could also be. Yeah.
that popped up. I can share it if you want,
Yeah.
but it was one of the biggest shocks when I came here. So
Mhm.
my culture that I come from, it's indirect. Like
Yeah.
you don't state things, you
Mm.
suggest them, and that
Yeah.
means I feel very strongly about it. Please do it, right? But you never, yeah, you merely hint at things. Obviously, complete opposite to what happens in Dutch culture. But what I was taught that is polite is to actually, yeah, if you're offered a drink or food or dessert or something, to decline a couple of times. And then the other person insists, then you decline again, and they insist again, and then you say yes. Then it's polite to say yes. So I did that in a Dutch household. They were like, I don't know what it was, dessert maybe. Hey, do you want dessert? And I thought, no, thank you. And they thought like, oh, okay, and I thought, wait a minute, where's my dessert? Why aren't they asking again? What's happening here? And imagine,
Yeah.
it's even more
Yeah.
impolite to ask for dessert. So I
Mhm.
stayed without dessert. It was a very sad moment. And you might think it's trivial, but it really taught me something about assumptions
Yeah.
and what one might consider polite might
Yeah.
just be nonsense for another, and how it's even if it's painful, but especially when it comes to biases and when they're unconscious, and I don't think any of us truly want to hurt other people,
True.
but
Yeah.
a lot of it just happens because we're not aware of it, and if we knew it, we would at least try to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the way we can bring these things to the surface is if we actually start talking about these things. So just
Yeah.
say, oh, wait, I'm really sorry, but where I come from, I say no first,
Yeah.
but I really want dessert. Can I please
Yeah.
have it? Obviously, very uncomfortable thing to say. I didn't say it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't blame anybody who wouldn't say it, but
Yeah.
the only way for the other person to truly understand us and what we're thinking, because people cannot read minds,
Yeah.
is if we at least hint at it or say something. And it's such a difficult thing to do, especially if you
This is a
don't like
very
conflict.
valuable topic that you're bringing up because dessert is something that I'm not skipping on. And then again, also there are some cultures out there that find it hard to say no, right? So again, it
Yeah,
comes to a place where you have that conversation, you learn more about each other and learn more about the cultural differences and how we can embrace the different aspects of our culture so that we understand that as well. So, yeah, thank you, Nicoletta. David.
Yeah, I can also add upon that as
Yeah.
well. Many things that I can relate with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, I'll throw out a recommendation, a book recommendation. Probably one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite books is The Culture Map by Erin Meyer.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
And it's really about, really relevant for people working in a multicultural environment,
Mm-hmm.
people when they travel, when they live abroad. And it talks exactly about Dutch directness. It talks about cultures that are more direct and cultures that
Yeah.
are more indirect.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's more that understanding that we're all very different. It's not because someone is rude or whatever. It's just how the culture is like. So that was actually my, you could say, unconscious bias,
Mm-hmm.
because I did a lot of, maybe it was more conscious, but it was unconscious because I did a lot of research. And before coming to this country,
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot about how direct people were and how rude people could be. And I was reading
Yeah.
Reddit forums and blogs and YouTube.
Perceived as rude though.
Perceived as rude.
Perceived as rude because
Perceived.
to 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 bring in some of my Dutch directness though, we like Dutch people like transparency. We like to make sure that the offer that we have on the table is visible so that we cannot tiptoe. You don't have to tiptoe around, okay, what are there any Easter eggs or is there something there? We want to make sure that you know this is the package that you're getting and that's it. Sometimes in the delivery, I'm not I'm only talking about, about myself. I cannot, speak on behalf of all Dutch names. Sometimes in the delivery, some people can be perceived as Texas Chainsaw Massacre butcher, where they butcher people, right? And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of all the Dutch people. I know this because I am Dutch myself and I've done this as well in the past. Yes, I am also human, but there's so much more that we can learn from each other when you look into each other's culture. Sorry to stop you,
Mm.
David. Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. It's a
Yeah.
perception and
Yeah.
assumption that many people have. And that's also what I came with, that, okay, when I come to this country, this is what I hear
Yeah.
and I read about, this directness. Also, that compared to other cultures, Dutch people are what I guess we call like coconut cultures, versus there are
Mm.
two types of cultures, peach and coconut cultures. Like peach cultures are soft on the outside, like
Yeah.
US Americans soft on the outside, but it's harder to get once you get to that pit, it's
Mm-hmm.
harder to build a real relationship. Whereas Dutch
Yeah.
people are coconut cultures. It's hard on the
Mm-hmm.
outside, but once you break through,
Yeah.
you can actually form a deep relationship. So
Yeah.
coming in, I was like, okay, Dutch people might not be the most friendly people. They could be perceived as rude. But when I
Mm-hmm.
came, I again, that bias was eliminated, you could say, because I met people as people, and I got to know them, their stories, and like it wasn't all that bad at all. I learned what directness really is. It's more about being honest,
Mm-hmm.
and you can be honest and polite at the same time. And so yeah, that was my, you could say, unconscious bias coming to this country.
Yeah, I see a reaction from Anna. And Anna is sharing, thank you for this beautiful discussion, Nicoletta, Vivian, and David. And so many things resonate with my story. To add to the culture map, which I recommend to everyone moving into the new culture context, and also everybody who is here working with different people, you can now compare more than 50 countries directly on their 8 dimensions there. So that's something very valuable. Thank you, Anna, for sharing this as well. And you've both been here for a while. What is the advice that you would like to give others who would like to work abroad? David.
The advice is, well, I mean, there's more practical advice on,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much information out there on the internet. What I did was well, it was a very spontaneous decision, so you
Mm-hmm.
might not follow me, but I also did quite a bit of research. I read blogs, went on Reddit, watched YouTube videos. I also reached out to a few people as well. So the internet nowadays talking about connection, we're all connected.
Yeah,
Looking at these
are you
people,
pointing out my story of 20 years ago when the internet wasn't that fast?
maybe. Well, yeah, making the connection. But now there's so much available to us right now.
True.
At the same time, for me, it's been one of the most transformative experiences,
Mhm.
educational experiences in terms of growth.
Mhm.
We talked about cultural exchange,
Yeah.
learning more about yourself, learning more about others. And my advice would be to take the leap if
Yeah.
it feels right. Take the leap. I don't think you'll regret it.
Yeah. I love what you shared, and also what I would like to add on, if you're not sure yet, maybe spend a holiday, a few weeks in the Netherlands, get a vibe, get a sense of what's happening here, at least talk to a few people who have done the leap before you are going to do it, so that you get a sense of, is this the right place, the right time, and also look into the housing market, because Amsterdam, the Netherlands, we do have a challenging housing market where the prices of renting is high. So do investigate in that when you want to come here or want to work for an employer. Definitely, when you come from abroad, there are some expat advantages that you have that are best benefit could be beneficial for you. Yeah, Nicoletta.
Yeah, for me, it would be that if you feel at all called to do
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
if there's something in there and you feel, okay, I really want to do it, but you're scared, and especially it's one thing to go when you're 18, it's another to go at 35 with,
Yeah.
I don't know, a husband and a kid behind you and a family at home. It's different. But if you feel that calling, consider it.
Yeah.
And if fear is the only thing keeping you back, really consider if you give in to the fear, because yes, it's difficult to sort out the logistics and figure everything out, and it's taxing. You need to adapt to a new culture, a new way of living, everything. But also staying at home is difficult in its own
Mhm.
way. Like whatever you do, it's difficult. Life will be difficult wherever you are. But if you want to experience this, here's what you could get from it. It's a great learning experience. It
Mhm.
shapes your character. It shows you who you are and what you can really do. It helps you discover who you are. And the more you know yourself, the clearer you are in your decisions and your choices. It helps you develop your resilience. It shows you that you can be strong and that you are. And there's no better proof than having done it. And that really brings up your self esteem.
Yeah.
You can learn that you can count on yourself. And it's such a gift. I think the more you do that, the more you learn to empathize, the more you learn how to listen. Based on what David's boss complimented him on, it's one of the biggest skills in the future workplace. By the way, it really it helps you develop so many skills, hard and soft skills, that you can take into your life and in your career. And if you do it, like give yourself like a year at least before giving up, because the more you immerse yourself, the more you have the chance to discover all these
Yeah.
things. It has so many gifts, and yes, it comes with difficulties, but looking back, I at least from my own experience, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. You're making me overthink. I'm dealing with a partner that is not ready to travel abroad, even to live abroad. Traveling, he's okay. Living, it's another thing. But also know that when you come here in the Netherlands, right, make the connection, or wherever you go abroad within Europe, make the connection with other people, like-minded people, so that you don't embark this journey alone, right? You're moving away from your family, you're moving away from your friends, and this journey might be feeling alone, but then again, you don't have to embark these challenges on your own. There are so many communities here in the Netherlands and also within Europe. There are so many communities out there that would definitely embrace you. You just have to find them. Reach out. Is there a community what are people doing in the weekend? Also different age brackets, right? Because I'm not clubbing. I'm more of a sip and drink my coffee and tea kind of girl in the weekend. So there are different occasions, different events for different people that are thriving here in the Netherlands. So find your tribe or create your tribe. That's what I would say. And I don't know who it is. I'm gonna look it up on LinkedIn though. But I'm definitely yeah. I really appreciate that you are commenting this because this is what I'm doing. You are one of the reasons why I'm having these conversations. Sometimes we don't address these topics, which are necessary for us to address, right? David and Nicoletta talked about knowing yourself, talked about the cultures, talked about the culture shock that they had, but also, also not, not making the mistake of missing out on the dessert, right? Because that could be also very valuable, or perceiving Dutch people as rude. Some people are rude. I'm not gonna banish them, or I'm not gonna dismiss them. But sometimes our rudeness, our directness, can be perceived in a different way. So right, so try to look at things from a different perspective and empathize with other people. Empathize with, okay, I understand that you come from a different culture, but also try to understand the other side of the table as well. And coming to the last question, Nicoletta, what is your wish for 2030 to humanize the workplace and DEI?
Yeah, a big one to end on.
Mm-hmm.
What I think we can all use more of, and we have it, but I
Mm-hmm.
think we can have even more of it, is more understanding, more empathy, more collaboration. One of the favorite phrases that stayed with me, I don't know where I heard it or read it, but it was from Brene Brown, so it might have been
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. Was that when you don't understand someone, or when you feel disconnected, or you have a conflict with someone, like get up close, because it's really difficult to hate someone up close, even
Mm.
if you're
Ooh.
fundamentally different,
Yeah.
because you get to know them, you get to see their people, you get to see their motivations and where they're
Mm-hmm.
coming from. And I think we all have examples of uh, colleagues that we work easier with or not,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe that we don't know so well, and we might jump
Mm-hmm.
to conclusions as to why they're doing things, or maybe assume that they're doing it for reasons that are not actually the
Yeah.
real reasons. And we can simply reach out and get a little bit closer and get to know them a little bit more, and then make that call. So
Yeah.
that's what I really wish for all of us, that we give each other the benefit of the doubt a little bit more, because we all have it hard one way
Yeah.
or another. We're all trying to do our best with what we know at this point in time. We're all trying to do that. And we might not see it, obviously, because they're different perspectives. But if we try to understand, or if we reach out, we have a better chance of, yeah, you know, enjoying
Yeah.
enjoying life, working better together. So that would be my biggest hope for all of us, to understand each other a little bit better,
I
and
love that.
just press pause on judgment for a little bit and check in first.
I love that what you shared as well, and also getting to know each other, right? Sometimes we have these assumptions, and these assumptions can be dismissed when you are curious, right? Whatever question that you might have, please ask them from a curious place, and also share your intentions, because by not sharing your intentions, sometimes somebody else can perceive it in a harmful way. So share your intentions. I really want to get to know you. What is your favorite food, for instance, where you come from, right? So that you can get to know people instead of asking the question, where are you really from? Because that question is so old. It's so old, people. It's so old. David, what about you?
Yeah, I can also, of course, resonate with that. When we were talking about travel, what came up to
Mm-hmm.
mind was it made me think back to another book that I read, *Sapiens*, and how
Mm,
if we look at the history of humankind, it's been one
yeah,
of immigration of people
yeah.
moving around the world, cross-pollinating, and how we evolved as a human race was through this cross-pollination of people, communities, ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now if we are to evolve to 2030 and beyond, it's going to be this continuation of, well, cross-pollination of ideas, people, background, experiences.
Yeah.
Now, how we do that, I think, goes back to what you and Nicoletta said, and that's human connection.
Yeah.
It's getting to know each other. While there's so much talk about AI technology, we
Yeah.
have to go back to us. We've evolved through millions of years, and we're not going to change that in the next 10 years. It goes back to human connection. And how we humanize the workplace is by getting to know ourselves, getting to know others, and empathy.
Yeah. I love that. I love this conversation was everything that I needed to re-energize myself, but also the fact that empathy. Obama talked about the empathy deficit a few years ago, and I still believe that that is the case. The moment that we upgrade our empathy level, where we learn from the other person on the other side of the table, or we learn to have that different perspective. So, definitely love that. I see two comments coming in, so let me share them and then I'm gonna end the show. So, Dr. Marie is sharing when I went to Paris for my internship, my thesis supervisor told me, go observe people and do as they do. She was trying to tell me, try to observe the foreign culture with empathy, and it really helped me. And this is a very valuable tip. Thank you, Dr. Marie. And also, Anna is sharing this quote summarizes your discussion beautifully. Live abroad if you can, understand cultures other than your own. And as your understanding of other culture increases, your understanding of yourself and your own culture will increase exponentially. Thank you, Anna, for sharing this. This is a huge good summarization. Thank you. I enjoyed the show. It went by so fast, but thank you for talking about celebrating what makes you different, right? Two different people. I know that you both live in the Netherlands and you haven't, well, you didn't meet each other, last year, end of last year. And beginning of this year, you have met each other, heard of each other, and now you are in a conversation with each other, right? So I hope that this journey continues so that you reach out to each other, but also to all the listeners, those who are watching the replay as well. Thank you all for watching or listening to this episode. Please connect with the guest speakers as well. Connect with myself as well, and learn more about what it means to humanize the workplace. Until next time, bye everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.